Peace, world. How you doing? Welcome to another episode of NYP Talk Show, the coolest podcast within this conscious sphere. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. We got super chats. We got merch on the website. Get involved. Shout out to our listeners. Shout out to our viewers. Keep sharing. Keep tuning in. Tonight, we have two special guests, two brothers that are out there doing their thing, dropping that information and correcting things. Tonight, show will be about what is Noon science, the nature of nature. Give it up for brother Todd and A-Noot. Peace, bros.
True peace, Mike. True peace.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you guys. I've seen you guys for you guys been out there for years doing your thing. I see with information from Afro Unu, the 9 ball series, and all this. If I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to get more, get a better understanding of who you guys are. So it's great to have you guys here. Before we get into it, I'd like to introduce yourself to our audience. Where you brothers from, and how did you get into the knowledge of self? Anyone that you could go.
All right. You want to go ahead, Anuk?
I can. All right. Usually I do a little introduction, who I am. My name is Anuk Ununupu. I am a member of the African race, also known as the Ethiopian race. I'm also a proud representative of the science known as Noone, given to us by our noble and great messenger, Afro Unu. And the reason why I give that introduction, because it must be known that I represent one of the original people on the planet, meaning the African race. And we usually call it the Ethiopian race because you break down the etymology of the word Ethiopian, it ties back to ether and it ties back to the melanin that we possess as Black folk. And that melanin goes a step further and produces what we would call woolly hair or kinky hair. And that is not to be taken for granted, that nature has blessed us with this type of genetic material that allows us to have the most potent chemicals in our genetic structure and our DNA. All right. So that's why the introduction to my name is very important, to let you know who and what it is that I represent. Also within there, I let people know that I represent the science known as Noon, right? Because Noon happens to be the and this is for anyone out there that may not know what Noon is. What Noon is a science. It's not a religion, right? And and religion is basically the lowest mental state that you can be at this particular point in time. And this is not to put anyone's religion down, whether that be Islam, Christianity, Judaism, whatever the case may be. So a lot of people who follow religion, they're very sensitive when I say things like, this is the lowest mentality that a person could reach, is when they follow the religion. And the reason why I say that is because the power behind religion is known as belief, right? And if you believe something, that means you don't really know, right? So if you approach a Muslim, if you approach a Christian, any one of those people that follow a religion, they will tell you, I believe in this. You understand what I'm saying? I believe in this means I don't really know what it is that I am following, right? So you must know what you're following, because the key word in knowledge is to know, right? So if your religion has a set of knowledge and you don't know, then that means there's no knowledge in there for you, because you don't really know. And that's why there's various interpretations of these particular religions out there. You got about 100 different types of Christianities. You got Sufi Islam and that type of Islam. You got Judaism and Black people calling themselves Hebrew, and I'm the first Hebrew and the first Jew, or the first, whatever the case may be. So there's a whole lot of confusion when it comes to religion and the path that it leads people on. So that's why I follow the science known as Noon, because even the etymology of the word science comes from sentia, and sentia means knowledge and to know, right? But you have pseudoscience and then you have science. But I want to let y'all know that pseudoscience is a part of science as well, right? Because pseudoscience actually helps to prove regular science. So when we see pseudoscience, we attack it with with proper knowledge and proper wisdom and proper understanding. So whenever we come in contact with anyone that's dealing with religion, we have to be very surgical on how we approach that particular individual because we know that religion produces mental illness. How do we know that? Because the world, if you could just look it up on Google, how many people follow Christianity? 2.2 billion. How many people follow Islam? Another 2 billion people. How many people follow other religions? Another couple billion. So the majority of the planet is on what you would call a frequency, right? So we in our minds and our brains hold a frequency, right? That's also linked to the planet. The planet also gives off its frequency because the planet itself is an organism the same way that we are organisms. It gives off frequencies from the core. They've tested this. We could go into geology and all those things, but I'm just giving a small introduction as to why it is I'm approaching it the way that I am. All right. So we give off frequencies, the planet gives off frequencies, but the lowest mental frequency that you can reach is religion. So that's why we follow the science known as Noone. And we'll get into more of that when you start asking questions and things of that nature. But that's just my introduction. That's probably the longest introduction that I've ever given.
you unpacked a lot, and I'm glad you said all that. But we're gonna get into that more into the meat of the show. Where you originally from, brother? Let the people know.
I was born in Guyana, in South America. I'm a Caribbean.
GC.
Yeah. I was born in Guyana. Yeah. I came here when I was very young, 7 years old. And I've been here ever since. I grew up in Brooklyn, grew up in Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Tell them.
Eventually moved out of Brooklyn, probably about 18 years ago. Moved out of Brooklyn. Yeah. And just I'm around. I don't want to tell people where I'm at because sometimes you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm around and I am in New York. But I pop up in various places if there's any type of pro-black events or anything like that. I pop out, let it be known. I'm always wearing my symbol. This is known as a nahoos. All right, I'll explain a little bit more of that later on what this symbol represents. But yeah, so yeah, I'm from New York. I came, like I said, came from Guyana when I was 7. And yeah, I'm not an FBA, unfortunately.
I don't feel bad. I'm Haitian, bro. I was born here, but I'm Haitian.
There's some things that I don't like about them, but I do, just to address anyone that's FBA, I do like the fact that you're identifying yourself. The only problem is, I don't like the fact that you're separating yourself. That is where I have the issue. Identifying yourself is perfectly fine. Yes, you're a foundational Black American. We respect you. We respect everything you got going on. You want your own flag. You want all these different things. Listen, do it all. But when it comes to the beast that we dealing with, we have to unite. Regardless if you're FBA, regardless if I'm Guyanese American, regardless if you're Haitian American, whatever the case may be, we have to understand. That's why in the beginning, I said I represent the Ethiopian race, which is the woolly haired race. Those that produce woolly hair, regardless of where you were born, regardless of how they cut the planet up into these countries and these pieces, and they colonize you and put you here and put you there, that woolly hair doesn't change wherever you're born. So an African is wherever an African is in his or her right mind, regardless if you want to be called African, Al-Kebalon, Kemet. I don't care. You understand?
Hold on. We gotta give you props, bro. The beautiful said, yo, it had to be said because, like I said, like you said, I respect the whole FBA movement, but I'm not with the division and infighting. To a point when you're trying to cast away others. Because believe it or not, I always have this ideology: same hell, different devil. Mine just spoke French, yours spoke English, others
That's it.
spoke Spanish, but we all caught hell.
That's
And
right.
I'm not trying to create no race war. This and I'm just putting it as
Mhm.
is written in history.
Mhm.
We were oppressed.
That's right.
So why are we divided because of a flag or language or based on some? It's foolish, but it's not
Right.
the show for that.
Right.
We'll have a show for that.
Right, and I just gotta, like I said, I love the fact that they put together a movement, regardless if and they got another one called ADOS. I'm not against any of y'all.
Mhm.
Identifying yourself and doing whatever it is you need to do to put that stronghold and that foothold in there. Like I said, it's just a divisive nature, and that's it. But I'm gonna allow Todd to, introduce himself. I felt like I took too much time.
Nah, you good. Yo, Tar, you gotta you gotta do the same thing, Tar. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
man.
we do this a lot, man. We're trying to be very mindful of the time, but we know when we go somewhere for the first time,
Yeah.
we want to be able to put so many sound bites out there, so when people come back, they can be like, okay, that's a great introduction. So yes, my name is Todd Kenupool. I am a proud member of the Ethiopian woolly head, kinky head African race, and I am a Ununupu, which is means cloud nine, and that represent the highest mentality, and also the primary creator of the black race and the universe is by extension as well. Noon itself, one of the definitions that the great messenger Afro Unu gave was that it means the nature of one nature, meaning it's the science of the one supreme being who is all space, matter, and time. And it has innumerable members and parts. And the part that most people fell away from and only have parts connection to is the gods in these different religions, because religion only goes back about 4,000 years old. And if you go back beyond 4,000 years old, religion rolls back into pantheism, which is the worship of many gods. And then there's another science called Sabaism, which is star worship or star honoring. And that is what gave birth to what you would call a Hebrew. The word Hebrew means star worshiper or honoring the stars, because they the ones that created things first. And that went into John 1:1 when it says in the beginning was the word, but really in original terms, it's the stars are first. And that's why you have Jesus interchangeable with the sun, S-U-N and S-O-N, and the light of the world and all that stuff like that. So
Yeah.
because religion came out of pantheism, which dealt with nature in general, which is pantheism is basically the worship of nature and its different manifestations, planets, stars, asteroids, spirits, ethers, all of that. It became religion became compacted, and religion is the secret clandestine worship of nature in the form of these different deities that have been speckled around the world. And that is a mentality. So that was just that. As far as the information, I came in contact with the books through some of York writings, not knowing at the time, because I came in at 95. But the book that put me on the path to learning was the autobiography of Malcolm X in the winter of 1991. That's when I started. And then when the movie came out, Malcolm X, then that just set me on my path. I had a cousin, rest in peace. He gave me some of your older books that he got from somebody, but it's when he was an Ansar. He wasn't doing the Ansar then. And those books I kept for a little while. Then I went into the Nation of Islam for a while. Then I went into Al-Islam for a couple of years. And then by 95, that's when I ran into one of York's bookstores. So
When you say York, say Dr. York for the listeners and viewers. He's
right,
talking about
Dr.
Dr.
York, right, Malachi York. And got from those books, it just led me on the same experience you had. It was the pictures at first. It was, the different languages in there and things like that. And that's what drew me to it, was just the introduction of not seeing that prior, right? So that was positive. And as you went on, I think the book that did right along with my reasoning, because people, I think, give too much credit to a writer. They say, "Oh, this person's book woke me up." It wasn't that. The fact that your reasonability was there and common sense was able to spark and take from that and add on to it. But it was something in the book. It was 360 questions asked a Sunni Muslim. The book was real thick.
Yeah.
And it was a question in there, and I still was a Sunni Muslim at the time. And I went to school with a friend of mine. I can't think of his name right now, but we was real good friends. I used to go to his house, and we prayed at the same masjid and in the town that I live in. And so one of the questions was asked Muslims, do they worship the Kaaba? And they're gonna be confused. And when you look at the Kaaba, I had enough sense to know that was a stone building. I had enough knowledge about people prayed that direction. I prayed in that direction. And then you see people circling around it and all this stuff like that. And then you read some of the hadith. And I had read all the hadith. People was, saying Abraham built it. And they said one day they seen Muhammad kiss it. So they started kissing it. And then it just started going. So from that point, I was like, I don't know if I can answer that, because I know I didn't. But I went to my friend of mine, his family, and they all prayed together. We always used to pray together. So I went to him because I felt he was more into it than I was. Because he grew up, his parents and stuff was Muslim. So I asked him, and I said, do you worship the Kaaba? And he got stuck. And it was crazy because it was just like the question in the book. And he was like, what you mean? I said, do you worship the Kaaba? I said, let me put it like this. I said, if the Kaaba wasn't there in Mecca, would you still pray to that direction? And he was like, I don't know, man, probably not. That's when it clicked for me. And I always remember that, because the person who answered that question was thrown. And to me, it showed me he didn't realize how much the Kaaba was in his mind as an idol, basically. That was the whole point there. And that's when I just slowly went on into just reading a lot of stuff that the books that he was putting out. But it was so much because I was real studious, because it was other people who had went through various schools before I got there, and I used to read everybody's books. So even though I didn't know nothing about stuff prior to the Holy Tabernacle Ministry, that's when I came in. I still had access to other books and those religious schools he was dealing with. So I just read everything. And then plus I got to know 3 different people who had bookstores. And I used to go to all of these bookstores and just read and write and all of that stuff. So eventually, after York get arrested later on, I had ended up about 2007. Somebody had contacted me because we was doing blog talk radio and all this stuff. He was still kicking the information, and still was like he was innocent and all of that. Because in America, because of the FBI, the CIA, and all this other stuff, it's easy for people who cosplay and to so-called trying to help a group of people, and then they get caught up. You can't really separate that kind of talk, because the government's agencies is known for doing these things. So that's be the hardest thing. Why it's hard for people in cults, especially Black people, to just be able to accept something is wrong, because the government 9 times out of 10 is involved in it some kind of way. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, I got hit in 2007 about these books called The Introduction to the Nature of Nature. And at the time that I was told that these some other books that York wrote. And so when I got a chance to go to New York and read the books, it had the same stuff in there, 9 ether, 6 ether. But then it was other things in there that was never spoken by York, like Nupu and Zupu and the Smack Circle. All those things was never in York's vocabulary. And so what I did was that my ex at the time had the Bible interpretation and the 9-ball books too. So I said, so I took a whole summer out in 2008, and I started from the Bible interpretation, and I read everything slow. Then the 9-balls that came out after the BIE in the late 60s, the 9-balls in the 70s, and then I read the nature books that came out like the 90s and stuff like that. So I read everything, and I kept reading and reading. So from 2008 to 2010, and then Yorkman was putting out the actual fact books, and I was reading those, and I said, but I declared from my reasoning that the Bible interpretation, the 9-ball, the nature books made sense because they went together. They didn't deviate.
Okay.
Something is wrong because the actual facts was still the classic York stuff all over the place. Aliens, this, it was just a whole bunch of stuff. And then I start writing York and questioning him, and he would never answer the stuff that I was coming to him in the nature books and the Bible interpreted 9-ball. And I used to post my letter response in our group that I put you in. So we got a couple of different groups that we battled in the Wapians for years. So from 2010, that's when I just stopped accepting that York got set up. And then I ran into victims and people who was on the case. And I got involved with all of that stuff. And that just we ended up creating a group, and we just started battling them hardcore back to back until eventually we started trying to figure out who was Afro Unu, and that came when Anuk.
I'm about to ask you that too before we got there, because I'm like,
Anuk ended up going into a bookstore. But okay, before this, there's two things that happened in that one time. Matter of fact, and I let Anuk tell his side. All right, so it was some ex-followers of York who became Ununupu through the works, but they thought that York wrote the books. So anyway, I was going to see Ken at the time in Manhattan, him and his wife. It was for my birthday, matter of fact. It was 2013, matter of fact, on my birthday. And we was going to Manhattan to celebrate and all that. So when I went over there, we was kicking and all that. And then he was telling me that his nature books was weighing out because he had them nice, like when he first bought them, he had put like tape or something on them so it wouldn't get messed up. So he was saying, yo, he got a friend that he needed some books from. So he said, I got to go cop me some more nature books, book 1 and book 2. So he wanted to do that. And then because we got on the phone a little later on, it's me, him, Ray Noone, rest in peace, Nova Noone, rest in peace, and Todd Nova. All right, so all of us was talking. So he was telling us that a guy he used to get the books from, he said he bought the originals 1 and 2. Then he said, the guy said, yo, I got a book 3. And he said, you got a book 3. Now, mind you, this is 2013. We didn't know Afro Unu had already passed. So we thinking York is the author. But then when we found out about this, we was like confused because there's no way York put out book 3 because book 3 was originally written in 2007. York had been in jail 5 years. And then the book didn't come out till late 2012, early 2013. So anyway, he said he got somebody. He said, no, he said, I got a book 3. So he said, let me see. So the dude left and came back with 3 Introduction to the Nature book 3. He kept 1 for himself, sent 1 to Nova, rest in power, and he kept 1 and he sliced it up and scanned it, and that's how we got book 3. So then we was like trying to figure out like, well, who is behind book 3? Because there's no way
Afro Unu. Yeah, it was Afro Unu.
Right. So that's when Anuk enters the center. And go ahead and tell them your part, Anuk. This was funny how all this happened at the same time.
Yeah, because for the sake of the listeners, because we don't want to deviate from the concept of the show, but I'm glad you're giving us context, because I want to know, curious to know who was Afro Unu. So I know Anuk gonna
Go ahead.
Yeah, so around that time was around the same time that I was coming into spiritual enlightenment, because I was having a lot of questions about spirituality and religion, just in general, because there were a lot of unfulfilled questions, right? Where do we come from? How did we get here? How did we get religion? Things of that nature. And what ended up happening was I ended up meeting Todd Kinoo, or Todd Noone, and he had gave me the nature books around that time, right? And this was late 2012, early 2013 was when we met, and he gave me the books. So roughly around, I want to say about a year later, I ended up going into what they would call at that time I think it was called the A&B bookstore. I don't know if you ever heard of it. On Livingston Street, downtown Brooklyn, there was a bookstore down there. You know that bookstore, right?
By Skimmerhorn. I know,
Right, right over there.
Yeah, I remember that.
And there was a man that owned that bookstore named Royal. Rest in peace to Royal. And apparently Afro Unu worked with Royal as far as putting his books inside of the store. So when I went into the store, there was one book there called The Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 3. So I'm like, whoa, where did this book come from? You know, and that's when I told Todd, like, yo, I picked up the last Introduction to the Nature Book 3. He was like, whoa, they got more, but no, they didn't have any more books. And at that time, he also had the tapes. I should have bought the tapes too, because they had Afro Unu used to record on the tapes, and he would give the tapes out, things of that nature. Now, how do we know it's Afro Unu? Me and Todd had now set aside a time to go down there, because I myself in my mind was like, I don't think York and this guy is the same person, right? So anytime I have issues with something, I get into super research mode. I have to find the answer. And so we went down there and we spoke to Royal, and something said to me, play the audio tape for Royal so he could confirm if this is Dr. York or not. So I played the tape, and he's like, no, that's not Dr. York, that's Afro Unu, you know. So and at this point in time, like Todd said, we did not know that Afro Unu had passed away. Right. He had passed away May 3rd, 2011.
Oh wow. That's right around the corner.
Like in 2000. May 3rd, 2011. He already had passed away for about 2 years already. And from that point on is when the separation was made, and the brutal beatings that you see online as far as, you know, against Dr. York. But like you said, it's not your platform is not designed for that. But we have separate interests in making sure that Dr. York does not steal the knowledge. So a lot of the people that come into learning Noone think that, and even if you Google it, you know, anything with 9 ether, 6 ether, and things like that, they think that that Dr. York was the one that created these terms. He didn't create these terms. These terms were created by Afro Unu. Now, the word ether already existed, right? I think what's the Madame Blavatsky
spoke about that.
Right. She would use the word ether and things of that nature, right? But Afro Unu uses it in a whole different context. The ether is basically like the radiation of the electromagnetism that you're using, right? So 9 ether would be the highest form of mentality and radiation, right? It's sort of like brainwave frequencies. So you got brainwave frequencies where you have the gamma at the top, gamma wave frequencies, which is about 30 to 100 what you call it, what's the hertz. 30 to 100 hertz. Then you got below that. Then you got the I think it's beta. That's
beta and delta, something like that.
Right, beta, and then it gets lower and lower, lower and lower. Right. So the point that I'm making is that instead of using the terms, beta, which comes from Greek, all these are just Greek letterings, right? We use ether, right? Because ether is a better representation of what is controlling the mentality of the people, right? Which is the electromagnetism and the electromagnetic magnetism of that radiation that causes us to think the way we think. So we as human beings think on that electromagnetic scale that's given to us either by the sun, the earth, or the moon, or it might come from outer space, right? Cosmic radiation, because we also have cosmic rays that bombard the planet and things of that nature. But anyways, just to circle back and just to finish up that whole Afro Unu introduction piece to it, we found out, like I said, that he passed away in 2011. Tar in some of his videos have his obituary so that you can see exactly who he is. Even with that being said, there's two other writers as well that helped him write the books as well. We just found out one of those writers passed away maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, which was the last writer. Yeah, the last writer passed away about 2-3 years ago. And even after that, I missed one of the writers by about a month. He passed away about a month after I found out where he was staying, which where I'm at right now, he's like maybe 3 or 4 minutes from my house. But the problem is they kept their identities away from the internet and away from the public, because the thing about religious people, when they find out that you have great knowledge and great wisdom,
zealots,
right, they start to worship you, right? Sort of like they did with York. When they found out that York had 76 trillion years of knowledge and all these different things, they started worshiping him and things of that nature. But with Afro Unu, he did not seek to be in the spotlight. As a matter of fact, the name that Afro Unu came on the scene with was Amanubi Rakata, right? The word Amun itself means hidden, right? Or the hidden sun, right? And if you ever see the symbol for Amun, right, it's these hands that go up in the air, right? And it's basically showing you that there's the hidden hand behind what you're seeing. So the hidden hand, or the knowledge that we're seeing in today's day and time, as far as this type of nature knowledge, is Afro Unu. He needed to stay hidden, because as time progresses, we'll see why that was done. But I know you got some questions about the science.
Oh yeah, definitely. Guys, I'm just letting you guys, unpack it, because it's the first time on the show, to get the people get a feel of you so they can get familiar.
Right.
Because we got to bring you guys back, because there's layers to this, and we got to just break it down and so people could digest it and process it correctly.
Absolutely.
In the context of like supreme being and reality, right? Can the one supreme being be defined within the science and framework of Noone science?
You want to answer that, Todd, or you want me to answer that?
I'll say this, and I'll let Anuk go, because I was reasoning on, and this was going to be the answer, because I knew this was going to come. So I want to say what Noone is. One of the greatest statements in the Introduction to the Nature that Afro Unu wrote is that the nature book is the autobiography of the one supreme being. And when you understand what an autobiography is, meaning it talks about its beginning, middle, and ending, and how it all comes together. Even though the one supreme being has no beginning or no ending, the book does describe how it works in cycles and seasons and the powers and its members and parts like that. So of course, it is definable, but not limited. And one of the problems that religion has given people, because to make up for the belief that religion creates through the ignorance of people born not knowing, and then further worsen when you're born under a group of people who colonized and tormented and dominated you for so long, that adds on. And so what they do is, because you're ignorant, and now they say, okay, we're going to give you something, but it's not the actual understanding of what everything is. And so we'll tell you that God, whatever name they give you, cannot be explained, which is a lie, because we exist in the finite side of the one supreme being. So therefore, it's impossible for a human being to be able to know everything about the one supreme being, because supreme means to be supreme in past, present, future, good, bad, ugly, all of that. We're products of that. But we can't. What need to be known is what is defined, which is all space, all matter, all time, which are infinite. It's no ending to it. That's the total answer when you just want to say, what is the one supreme being? That's what we call the smack circle. But go ahead, Anuk.
All right, repeat the question one more time for me, so I can make sure that
the question is, within the context of Noone framework, can one supreme being be defined?
Absolutely, it can be defined, and it is defined in the books, right? So I'm gonna read actually the passage that speaks about it, right?
Yeah.
So it says, right, and you can find this on our websites. If you go to find9news.com, or you could go to noponoon.com, you will find the definition as it's given. So one of the things that I like to do when it comes to Noone is I like to give the answer in which the science gives, and then I will give my input after it, so that there's no confusion as to how the question is being answered. All right. So all right. So you asked the question about, can it be defined and identified, right? Absolutely. So the answer is yes. The one supreme being is nature absolute, meaning nature whole and complete. The one supreme being, absolute nature, is who is infinite in all directions and eternal. Of course, infinite means endless in space, and eternal means endless in time, as well as having no beginning. There are many gods, but only one supreme being. That is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient nature, also known as the all in all. Absolute nature is all space, all matter, and all time, and the three are one and inseparable. Absolute nature is all persons, all places, and all things, past, present, and future. Let it be remembered always, and let it be known. Listen to reason. Of course, all space is endless vacuum, emptiness, and nothingness in all directions. All matter is endless somethingness and occupant of space in all directions, and all time is endless continuity and keeper of the existence of all space and all matter in all directions. Therefore, the true definition of matter is any and everything that occupies space. And the true understanding of this definition of matter does mean that all spirit beings, gods and goddesses who exist, must be parts of absolute nature and may be called the angels of the one supreme being. The one supreme being exists by opposites called nothingness, which is indeed vacuum, and somethingness known as matter, controlled by energies called brain newts and reason, and instincts and characteristics known as laws and cycles. Let it be known. So that is
physics right there. That's not like straight.
Funny. I was just about to say to you, you can find this in physics.
Yeah. In
present day physics. If you go into physics, anyone that studies physics, this is what is the definition of the one supreme being. So a lot of times people limit God, even the Bible limit God to just this planet, right? They don't, they only speak of God being, being under the water. God was going over the surface of the water, and he created the sun and the earth and the moon. All these this 7-day creation that they speak about, which is really 6 days, and he rested on 7. But all of this numbers and numerology and all of these different things are encoded within religion for the spell of it, right? So that's why Afro Unu put in there that these spirit beings, these gods and goddesses, all of these different entities are what? They are all part of the one supreme being. You understand? And if you dive more into the books, he'll also let you know that these are motivating parts of it, right? So there's one God that motivates Christians, right? You have another God that motivates Muslims. There's another God that motivates the Chinese and what they do in Buddhism or whatever culture they want to call that. So there's all these different parts that make up the one supreme being, which is known as the all in all, right? So can it be defined? It can absolutely be defined. And I just read the whole definition, which just means that everything is part of the one supreme being, good and bad. Like Todd was just saying, you know, it doesn't matter what part of nature we are in it. And physics is there to verify what we're saying. We don't use belief. We use sciences and anthropology and all different aspects of science to verify everything that's being said.
I got you, because I look at that nature book. I did a quick scroll through, and it said he did state something in the sense of sound right reasoning. You understand? So that's something that makes a lot of sense. And it, you know, it's basically to use your brain and to break things down to the particles, down to the nucleus of it. And
But
even then, within the nucleus,
you know, it's even deeper than that, right? So listen to the word sound, right? So sound is a what? Vibration.
Frequency. Yep.
It's a frequency. Also, what do particles do when they go into action? They vibrate.
They vibrate. They
right. They oscillate. They go back and forth. So in what you call it, particles that are in space, right? So space is a vacuum, right?
Yes, it is.
Not that it doesn't exist. Yes, it is nothingness, but the nothingness is a void. But there is technically something there.
It is an existence itself. It's there.
Right. It's still there. It's existing, but it's perfect nothingness, right? And if you look into physics, right, what do they say in physics? That certain particles are able to go in and out of existence, in and out of reality. When they study certain particles, they like, oh, this particle was here, but it vanished out of existence. Black holes, when black holes consume objects, it goes into what? Nothingness. It's being hidden into the fabric of space. It's going back into zero neutrality, meaning that everything that goes into a black hole ceases to exist. It strips and then it goes back into particle or elementary particle form. So when Afro Unu mentions that nature is all space, which is the nothingness, and the void in the vacuum, and all matter, which is everything that occupies space, which is the vacuum or the container, and time, which is continuation of both of these entities going forward, is the one supreme being. And there's no God that can escape that and create it. So, right.
Oh man, yo, I got a question. You know what I'm saying? This is because you're gonna need more than one show to break this down. What are the 5 levels of God and goddesses within nature? Can you take that one, Tara?
Yeah, let Todd take that real quick. Because I know it by heart, but he breaks it down as far as you got the brain roots, and the brain roots in Noone are called the primary movers. I mean, they're the first to move. They're the highest level of matter that can exist, the best matter. And then those are the first level of gods. You can
and just to piggyback on what Tara is saying, in layman's terms or in mundane terms, that would be the elementary particles, right? So the Caucasian or this particular society has a elementary particle chart, right? Where he calls it the leptons, the bosons, the what you call it, the what's the one I was looking for specifically, and even now they have one where they call the God particle, right?
Yeah.
So we speak about the God particle and things of that nature, which
Whole
is
CERN thing they doing. Yeah.
right. So these are the first level of gods, right? They combine and they make because remember the word atom just means indivisible, right? But that this is before the Caucasian even knew what an atom was. He named it indivisible, which happens to be an atom, but he didn't know that it could break down even further than an atom. And now you have what you would call an elementary particle, right? That's made up of quarks and gluons and things of that nature, which those are actually the indivisible ones, right? And they come together and make matter and things of that nature. So they are the first level gods. Why? Because they follow the laws of nature, right? Meaning that when nature is primed for a certain cycle, they come together and they create conditions in order for it to be conducive to what we're doing. But just to piggyback on what Todd was saying, as far as brain newts are concerned, brain newts are the elementary particles, right? And the reason why Afro Unu calls them brain newts is because they represent the original or the first mentality. They know what they're doing. See, people don't understand. They only think that humans are the only intelligent beings, right? But they don't know that these particles are way more intelligent than us because they follow the cycles and they create conditions in order for things to happen. But I saw who just pulled that up. You pulled that up, Todd? Yeah, there you go. So yeah, so that's the there's way more brain newts than this, right? These are just the ones they found. You understand? They found these, but they are innumerable, meaning that there's way more elementary particles than those that we see there. Because they just figured out the charm particles, meaning the if you could pull it up again, Tar, real quick.
Same one?
Yeah, that same one you could pull up again real quick.
I'm glad you spoke on you mentioned that, right? And before Tar began to show that, what is the smart circle of order?
SMAT.
SMAT. Yeah, pardon me. The space, matter, and time, right?
Yeah, right there you go. Yeah.
Damn, what the hell I'm saying? I'm saying smart order.
Yeah, that's all good. It's all good. You're being introduced to it as well.
Yeah, the SMAT circle of order. Like I get the whole concept of space, matter, and time. That's why I'm like, oh, this is metaphysical. Right. So it's making you question what's in existence. Like that's what's so dope about it.
I have a lot of questions, but just to finish up the five the levels real quick, the 5 levels.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Todd just finish off the rest of them, and we're gonna circle back to the 5 and then explain the SMAT circle, and we could go back to the 5 levels. So yeah, just explain real quick, Todd, real quick. 5.
So the second level would be what we refer to as universal scientists, or the orbs, which in their rank will be the suns, right? The original creators of the physical universe, and then the planets, and then the moons. So all of those would be the second level, and these are what I affectionately call them floating brains in space, because they are conscious. Every last orb that's up there that's classified properly as a satellite, which is a moons, or which are neuter genders, and then we have planets, which all of those are female, and then there's suns. The suns, all of them are male, and those are considered the wives, and the satellites are the children that the planets gave birth to when the sun impregnated them with non-ether energy. So these will be the original gods as far as pantheism and stuff, all the way down to religion is concerned. These will be the visible gods and goddesses. So that's be the second level, just in the basic.
Just piggyback real quick on what you just said about them being conscious. In the centers of the orbs exist their brains, right? This like they identify in our center of the planet made of the nickel, and the that's the core of the brain, but brain was also part of the sun, and that's what attracts the sun. And they're now finding this out. This is something that Afro Unu knew prior to this. Remember, he wrote these books in 1993, and prior to that, you have to have time to even write the book to even put it out. So he had knowledge of this by studying the ancient sciences and also bringing it into present day in order to give us the knowledge and wisdom for us to see exactly what these orbs were, right? Because we are looking at existence only from the lens of religion, and religion will never teach you that the planet is alive, right? We just did a show not too long ago on our platform speaking about the blood of the planet, right? Okay. And the existence of the planet and the activities that's hurting the blood of the planet and hurting the consciousness of the planet. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but you know, for those that want to know more, just go to Todd Kinoo's channel and you'll see a lot of that information there. But just to piggyback on what he's saying about the consciousness of the planet, that's in the center of the planets that controls the orbs.
Yeah, I'm showing a picture now so you can see it.
Oh, definitely. All right, let me put you on stage with that presentation. Hold on. All right, you there, bro.
Okay, so that's what people need to understand. Mundane scientists, they call it a core. In Noone science, we call it what it is. That's the brain. And that's where their mind is at, the visible mind. And from the center, you know, this will be the brain. Then it's got cores, but we know it's really clay down there around the brain. And then the rest of it goes into the top. This is the top of the planet is like the skin, the skull, where the hair of the trees grow. And the ground itself is the scalp. And the planet has two wombs, one in Africa, Equatorial Africa, called Lake Victoria. And then the other, which is where the African race came from, was born from along the Nile River. And then the other one is over there on the equator of, what is it again? I'm having
that's what by the Java Islands.
Yeah, Java Island. That's the womb of mankind, which certain tailless monkeys that evolved into the Arabs today, the Mongolians or the Koreans, Japanese, Chinese today, and the Hindus called the Indian race. So those are the original mankind race that evolved from certain tailless monkeys. We got YouTubes on my channel that we follow up with Afro Unu making these statements. We just go find the actual terms and sciences than mundane science to corroborate, because most of these religions, they're not, even though religion can be considered a science, is the weakest of science because the information was extracted out of it purposely to give you belief, because nature moves in opposites. So the opposite of belief is knowing. So people know that you had to come from something that come from something, but a lot of that something is either misnomer or they'll give you gaps. Like a good example, real quick, they'll say Adam, Eve, and Cain and Abel was the first people on the planet. Cain killed Abel, right? So it's going to be three people. Later on in Genesis chapter 4, Cain goes and finds a wife in a whole nother land with some people. So what they did was they extrapolated so much of the story that they could, but some of it they had to leave because it wouldn't make no sense. Because how did Cain reproduce if they was only three people on the planet? Because then that means that Cain would have had to slept with Eve to reproduce. So they didn't want to put that there. So they had to come up with what they knew people existed, because Adam and Eve were not the first people on the planet. But I'm just giving you just an analogy that how they take stuff out of the way. And if your mind is dead from religion, you just go with it and you'll never think about it.
You won't question things. I'm still like a little baffled. I'm taking all this in. I'm like, I need to really go into this book, man, and see what more is going on. Because
No, because I want to wrap this up before we
let me just say this. It's
Yeah.
making sense. It's just that you got to break it down and catch up, and you got to do like a lot of cross referencing as you're
That's
reading
right.
this, and then what we know as science.
That's right.
And like, okay, I see where it's coming from. But go ahead, God.
That's right. Yeah. So the third level is the spirit being, right?
Okay.
Those are the no, the third level is not the spirit beings. No, the third
Yes, it
level.
is. Yes, it is.
You sure?
Yes, third, then the pygmies, then demigods.
Okay, then the pygmies. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Right. So the third level is the spirit being, which we actually is identifying at this particular point in time, known as the biofield, right?
Okay.
So part of the but it's actually a whole being, and you've probably seen this before, known as the aura. So everybody around them has an aura around them, right? And the mundane scientists have now discovered that this particular aura is something that they really need to look into. So Todd and I found out not too long ago that they just identified this in 1992, that this field or this aura is something that they really need to look into. Now, our ancestors call this aura the Ka, right? And but to get deeper into it, there's something also called the Ba. So the Ba is the mental aspect of the being, right? So the Ka is the field, the Ba is the mental aspect of it, right? And like, for instance, if you look at I think there's some scientists in California where they show that everything has a spirit. They had a leaf, right? They put the leaf on the microscope, I think it was the electron microscope. They cut off a piece of the leaf, removed the physical part, but guess what? The spirit of the leaf was still there.
I heard about that study. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? They did that with some animals where they cut off, I think, the leg of an animal, right? And the leg was still there once they look at the
telescope,
right?
Like that. Yeah.
And it could see through that. So basically letting you know that the spirit is there. The spirit is your body's double, right? So the Ka in ancient Egypt, if you look into the Para Emeru, which is the coming forth by day, that book tells you that your Ka is your double, which means it's your spirit, right? In various sciences, this is what they describe these things as far as the spirit. The fourth level is the pygmy gods, right? So the pygmy gods are human people who are actually predates us. We are the secondary creation, right? These pygmy gods existed prior to us. Of course, like you said, we gotta come back and explain this stuff, right? Because it's going to be a lot for a person to take in to hear something like pygmy gods. Okay, well, when did these pygmies exist? What did they look like? All of these different things. But what I could say real quick is that our ancestors left remnants of themselves all over the planet. This is how we're able to identify it, right? So there's a certain part of history known as the Ediacaran part of history. Ediacaran just is a representation of a old time, like maybe 500 million years ago, that they describe, right? So we don't go back 500 million years as far as just one time period. We understand nature to be cyclical, right? So it happens over and over. So if they found something from 500 million years ago, we just have to divide the time to find out exactly what cycle that it was existing in, right? So the Ediacaran biota, or the Ediacaran fauna, is what our ancestors left as far as the remnants of themselves. I pulled
it up so y'all can see it.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, we gotta do multiple parts of this.
Yeah, it has to be broken down. So if you look at that, right, the Ediacaran biota, these are parts of their bodies that were that came off of their bodies, right? And I could hold on, let me see something real quick. It's actually that probably won't do you no justice looking at that. I'm gonna show y'all
You're
something.
showing a picture of the pygmies.
Yep, I'm gonna show you a side by side so that you can get the real gist of what I'm talking about. Hold on, let me see. What explain? You can explain the last two types real quick, and then I'm just gonna I'm gonna pull this up.
So that was the brain loops, the orbs, the pigment gods, the spirit beings or the spirit gods and goddesses are original spirits that came with creation. Once the sun had originated itself, could the sun itself grown, like the ancient Kemet said, Ra or Ray, the suns grew themselves a body, and then what was left over from the chaotic matter of Noone, or what you call nine ether, form all of the other planets and then set them in motion and all that other stuff. And then eventually they gave birth to the satellites. What you see with the astral belts is left over from the birth process out there. And they don't know that. They couldn't tell you where them rocks came from, but those rocks came from all of these female mothers in our solar system. That's where those rocks came from. When the moons came out of them, it was explosions, and that's what pushed the moons up out of them, and that's how they came out. Some of them was grown just from the chaotic matter, like the ones around Saturn and Jupiter. They are not the same physically made as the other planets like Earth and Uranus and all that. So those moons were kind of formed similar to the way the planets were formed. So that is that. And then you have demigods and goddesses. That's the fifth level. These are when spirit forces. And if you look at the last video that I did with A-Noot talking, he breaks down reincarnation. It's called Reincarnation, Incarnation, and the Lost Years of Jesus. And in that, A-Noot breaks down how incarnation and stuff works. And then we go into an old video A-Noot did about 8 months ago based on Bible interpretation when Afro Unu or A-Noot Rakapata spoke about how Jesus went through those mystery schools and his upbringing. That's why they really took out his life from 13 to 30. Okay. And then they pick up after he becomes powerful. So Afro Unu gave us the information. A-Noot and the AI Claude went in, that was Chat GPT, dug up all of the extra writings that they don't put out there. And we put it in a video form that explains the mystery schools, how Jesus was, which was the real name of Caesarion Ptolemy the 15th, the son of Cleopatra and Mark Antony. Okay. And from that, it talks about how he was brought up next to a birthing nursery connected to the Giza pyramids. No, one of the Giza pyramids connected to it's called a Per Ankh, which is the house of life. And there he was raised up, which is few of pharaohs to be. He was being put in training to become the pharaoh. They just changed it to a prophet and all, but that's not true. Caesarion was born in Alexandria, and they changed that stuff, which is under Flavius Piso and them. They changed what happened and made it look like he was walking around Jerusalem and all that, but he was actually going around Kemet, a little bit of Asia, but he was looking for his people, the Arabs. Jesus was part Arab and part Roman. They're not going to tell y'all that because the information was meant to keep you obscured so y'all wouldn't know what the problem is. So anyway, these gods or goddesses, when they go to incarnate into a human being, that's when the person becomes a god or a goddess. And that's when you become a demigod, meaning part god and part human. And if you have a child with someone, your children and offspring carries the blood because the spirit being, once it mixes with you in your blood and in your lungs and all that, the energy that the spirit being is made of goes into your blood. And if you reproduce, it goes into the child. So this is another reason why when demigods on the planet, even though they don't call themselves that in modern times, but they are people who are very famous. Hitler was a demigod. You understand? Buddha was a demigod. And if they had children, they had to hide their kids because they would kill the divine in the individual, whether they was good or evil or both. So that's the basic levels. You found it, Anuk?
Yeah, I found one of the pictures that I needed. So I'm gonna just show y'all real quick.
Nah, this is you definitely gonna come back. There's a lot you're unpacking. Some people will be like, "What?" and we welcome that because I like to hear different perspective, and not for this intellectually jaw jacking, but the fact that we could vet things. Brothers could exchange ideas, thoughts, opinions.
Is that going up?
I got you.
Yeah, he got to share it for you.
I got you. Boom.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. All right. So as you can see, at the top of the page, it says introduction to the nature of nature. Listen to reason, the pygmy god. And this paragraph is an arrow pygmy, right? Who was born 2 million years after the geo pygmy. So we could kind of do this for all of the pygmy gods, right? So when I said that the pygmies left remnants of themselves, right? These back attachments are what we call in Noone dynamos, right? They left these things all around the planet and if you look on the right side of the image now, right? They renamed these things. We call them pygmy gods. Why would this thing why would this thing have this attachment at the bottom? You see where it says hold fast at the bottom of the image of the wing on the right side? It says hold fast at the bottom.
Yeah.
So hold fast, right, was what was attached to their spinal columns. You understand what I'm saying? And to this day, they don't know what these things are. But in Noone science, we identified what these things are. Afro Unu already put it into context. It was already there for us to go find it ourselves. Okay, so that's just an example of the pygmy god being around, and that's what we're talking about as far as them predating who we are. They created us, right? We're not born with the dynamos or the back attachments because we exist in what the ancients would call the duat. Okay, we exist in the underworld. We're not able to grow these because the electromagnetism wouldn't allow us to have these, and their bodies were much more denser than us, right? We're dense, but they're much more denser than we are. So their bodies are able to produce and to create those things. Of course, that's a whole nother class for a whole nother day. All right.
Definitely. Now we're gonna do that. Definitely. My brothers, you guys came out, y'all rocked it. Hold on, let me give you guys gotta give you guys your applaud for that. Where's my applaud button? Can't find it, but yeah, you get the gist. Nah, you guys did your thing, and like again, it's a lot for us to take in. I see the science. I got an understanding of it. Rest in peace to the elder. That I don't know what inspired him to do this, to bring this to the world, but much power to him. Nature. He was definitely inspired. You guys are doing the work. Where can the people catch you guys at? If you could drop your handle, where can people reach out to you guys to learn more about this?
You could reach out to me on YouTube, which is A-Noot Ununupu on YouTube. You could just follow my YouTube page. My website, noponoone.com. That's NOPONOONE.com, noponoone.com. Okay. My Instagram is a little different. But you can follow me on my Instagram as well, which is flawless, the number 1, and then ONE, which is FLAWLESS, the number 1, and then ONE. So it's almost like flawless 1-1. But right.
Flawless 1. Yeah, I got it. I put it in the back thing. You can just pull it out the back, Mike.
Okay, definitely. Hold
on. I put everything in the back so you can see it. Pause.
All right, I got you.
Yeah, so that's where you can find me as far as if you ever want to reach out to me for whatever reason. If you have any questions about Noone or anything like that, where to get the books. We're pretty thorough as far as Noone is concerned. We've been studying for well over a decade. Todd for a little bit longer than a decade. He's has the books for pretty lengthy period of time, and we've basically dedicated our lives to making sure that this particular science reaches the minds of the people. Why? Because it elevates the mentality. As we were telling you earlier in the beginning, religion is the lowest mentality because all you have to do is believe, right? But when you come into Noone science, you get knowledge like what you're seeing right here.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? And just to answer your question real quick about the SMAT circle of order, which happens to be the space, matter, and time circle, which rotates counterclockwise, that's the circle of existence. Every single person, place, and thing exists on the SMAT circle of order, right? This symbol that you see me wearing here is actually the SMAT circle of order, right? This N over the Z, and it's actually a 72 million year circle, right? So remember, I was speaking to you earlier about nature working in cycles. So there's 4 different quadrants here, right? You slice this circle up into 4. Each one is 18 million years, and each cycle is basically likened to our seasons that we have, which happens to be winter, spring, summer, and fall, right?
That makes sense. Hell yeah.
Right. So these 4 seasons, we're actually in the winter season and we're going from winter into spring, right? But that's essentially what the SMAT circle of order is. It's just a circle of identifying where we are as far as existence is concerned. Okay. Of course, we're gonna break that down even more when we come back, and you're gonna have a whole understanding of what that is. But appreciate you for having me on the platform, Mike. Man, this is a very
I appreciate you guys for real, man.
inspiring platform. It's refreshing to have people like yourself out here that is spreading the knowledge and information and giving awareness to the people. So you must be able to get flowers yourself, and hopefully the button is right next to you to press for the hand clapping.
Oh, definitely. And I appreciate that. Shout out, this is not done alone. Shout out to my brother Ron. You know what I'm saying? Who came up with this concept from what we were doing with a nonprofit, and we just turned into a platform now. And it's 3 years, going on 3 years, and we appreciate every subscriber that we get. Appreciate you guys for coming on, and everyone else. So flowers to you and to our Noone, because you guys doing the great work out there.
Appreciate
what I'm saying. And don't worry, I'm gonna put those links into the description when once it goes up online, people will be able to contact you guys so they can see what's going on. I want to say appreciate you, brothers, man. Peace to you, A-Noot, and Tarnoon for coming out. I know Tarnoon somewhere probably doing his thing.
Yeah, I'm right here. I was trying to plug my phone up. Go ahead.
Not so love, man. But with that being said, people, don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe. You guys, watch the video over and over again. Reach out to the brothers. Get the book because it's new to me, and this is a great. It sounds very appealing and very deep.
Yeah, I'm sorry we didn't get through all of the questions, man. I really wanted to hear.
Now we're gonna get to part 2. Don't worry, we gotta have like 20 parts for each book. Definitely. So people, don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe. We got super chats. Show love. Reach out to these brothers. Peace to Tarnoon. Peace to A-Noot for coming out. Peace to those who follow the science. With that being said, NYP, we out. Peace.
Peace, true peace.